Okay. All right. A little snafu there for just a second. Welcome to the OCmodcast episode 14. Today we have some more stories about how you're told that you can't play video games. And I'm going to give you some details on why thousands of people are going to be unable to play the Halloween game when it comes out next month. And there's a Switch game that's no longer playable. The head of Xbox, Asha Sharma, got a surprise when she visited Bethesda HQ. The campus had a surprise for her. And we also have news about the pending release of the Steam Frame. We also have footage of the Gears of War E-Day multiplayer that dropped the other day. And today is my daughter's 21st birthday, and so I'll tell you a little bit about that. And we have our patented oven fresh golden brown flame kissed gaming and technology news. And of course, this being Saturday, we have some classic cartoons playing in the background. Today is the original Super Mario Brothers Super Show starring Captain Lou Albino. So just know that Mario's with you always. So with that, we're going to talk about some of the... So we got some topics lined up for you. So, of course, the Steam Frame dongle support was added to SteamOS. And so there were a lot of people that were kind of confused about what that meant. You know, a lot of people have been very interested in Steam Frame, so I've been doing a lot of coverage on that. Even though it's not out yet, there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about and determine if it's right for you. And I'm going to talk about, there's been a lot of stuff up and about jobs and, you know, in the technology industry and people losing their jobs in the tech industry, especially the gaming industry. So a little background on myself and how I found myself doing what I'm doing. And I have some unique perspective on the technology industry and, you know, and jobs or whatever. Basically, how I got into reviewing is, you know, tech is fickle. You know, there's lots of layoffs. I used to be an artist, and I went to art school, and there was a time where, you know, but being a fine artist doesn't pay a lot of money. So I had to figure out how to pay the bills. So I started doing, you know, since I was around computers. Basically, my dad gave me and my brother an Atari computer way back in the, you know, when we were 8 or 9 years old. And so I grew around computers, which wasn't something that a lot of people my age had. And so, but when I wanted to be an artist or whatever, and it couldn't pay the bills, I started doing some tech support. And in the mid 90s, web technology started coming around, and that was a perfect blend of artistry and technology. And so I started getting into that. And so I worked my way up and learned HTML and how to do websites and CSS and graphic design and all that sort of thing. And so I kind of wedged into the web world. And as things evolved, doing web pages turned into web applications, and you had to learn JavaScript frameworks. And basically nowadays you have to pretty much have a computer degree to do web development, web design, and applications. You know, it's basically application support. But I've had lots of, you know, the reason I mention that is because through all of that, through all of my jobs, there have been layoffs. And I'm not sure if it's just the technology industry, if other industries have the same thing, but basically every 3 or 4 years, found myself having to pivot or do another job or whatever, because either the company went over, they decided they didn't need, you know, development or whatever. So I found myself doing working at different companies. Being in the Seattle area, being the technology hub that it is, I used to work at Microsoft as a contractor, and that was probably the best job I ever had. I found myself working at Nintendo when I was in between jobs, trying to find the next career gig, doing phone support. So I was an artist, web developer, tech support, and back to programming and UI. And so that's where the reason I mention that is because I feel like I have. So now I'm doing management most recently. And now I'm doing the YouTube journey, as my side gig. It's like, I've been doing OCmodshop, been a gaming journalist, and that's always been fun. That's my passion on is being in the gaming industry. And but the reason I mention all of that is just so to give you some background on my perspective on my analysis of the gaming industry and technology and the job thing. And I'm going to be talking about how to probably be doing some more content on how to get jobs in the gaming industry. I've helped some people who are fresh out of college get jobs and how to tweak their resume, how to do some interview prep, all that sort of thing. And I want to help you do that, get a job in tech. And if I can do a job in tech, you can do it too. I had an art background, and there's lots of things in tech that you can do depending on what your specific talents are. You don't necessarily have to be a math nerd and be heads down all the time. If you're the thing is about software development nowadays, it used to be that one person could be locked in a room and bang out a program or a game, and that was it. But now it's a very social thing, and I've seen where a lot of people who get into programming because they feel like they don't have to interact with people struggle or have a hard time because there's aspects to software development that they don't like, which is basically interacting with people, being social, planning things out, and because they just want to. Yeah, I'm reminded of a parable or a saying. It's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And that's basically software development today. If you want to go far, if you want a big project, all these big games, it wasn't one guy in a room. It was a whole team and multiple layers of teams. It's a very social thing now. And the reason I mention that is like, no matter where you are, what your talents are, if you don't feel like that they align with, being left-brained, math and science focused, that's okay. There's a wide array of things that are required to do software development and gaming development today. And I found that I was lying to myself when I was doing stuff that didn't interest me. I love doing the front end, and that always interested me. It's like it was a lot really tangible. It's like I do something and I can immediately see the results. And for me, doing back end stuff wasn't as interesting. So that's part of the thing. If you're going to be successful, and that I'll talk about this when I consult with you, I can offer one-on-one time with me. And when I consult with you, that's going to be my mantra, is do the stuff that interests you. And if you want a better job, you don't necessarily have to do stuff that you don't want to do just to make a paycheck. You can do stuff that you love. So don't do stuff that doesn't interest you, because it's just a path to burnout. So got a little long in the tooth about that. So there's also, let me show what's been going on with some of the other stuff. So also there were some front end UIs that are trying to make Windows appliance-like. So earlier this week, I looked at a UI called Winhanced. And it basically brings a lot of features like SteamOS to Windows handhelds. And so I looked at that. And as a matter of fact, it got the attention of the developer of Winhanced. And so I'll talk about that a little bit, and I'll clarify some things because I wasn't running on the intended hardware, which is I was testing this out on my desktop PC. I wasn't running on a Windows handheld. So this wasn't a review. This was just an overview. Basically, check out the video because it's not a one-to-one. It's comparing apples and oranges. It's a Windows machine to SteamOS. And while there are some things that were different, my whole thesis on it is that no matter how appliance-like you try to make something, it's not going to be as integrated as something like SteamOS because, or Bethesda, or some of these other all-in-one distros, because it's a layer on top of Windows, and there's going to be fourth wall breaking experiences. How gaming on PCs were is that basically, like, you had a DOS prompt, you type in, you type in a DOS prompt and run a game. It's like it wasn't, playing a game on a PC has never been like it was on a console where you just plug in a cartridge or a disc and just play the game. It was always, you had to open up the operating system, get to a prompt or click on an icon and run a game, run some settings, all that sort of thing. It was, gaming on PC only recently, within the past so many years or so, has tried to be appliance-like. And so Windows, that's something that Windows has been struggling to do, is make something very appliance-like, where you just plug it in and go. There's a home button and you go back to your main screen, not to the desktop. And so that was my whole thing about looking at Winhanced. It seems like it is a much better alternative for Windows handhelds, but it's never going to be as integrated or seamless as SteamOS. And that was my entire thesis. The developer of Winhanced did reach out to me. I responded back to him, but the contact form didn't work. So I'd love to have him on the podcast, or have an interview with him, and because I really do want to see this happen, because I think Winhanced is probably the best shot for a Windows handheld to be as appliance-like as it can be. It still needs some work. It's still in beta. It's not a 1.0 release. But so just caveats with that. And when you look at that video, just know this was not running on target hardware. It was running on a general desktop. But I was still able to make some comparisons, still able to see some issues there. So I think there's still some value in that. Let's see, what else we got? Yeah, certainly. One of the things I noticed is that you can. Let's just open this up. Today we're looking at a front end for Windows. There aren't any achievements here, but front end board keyboard that PC. Since if I press where like time to beat. Yeah, there's a lot of features that are on SteamOS, but and you have to have Decky plugins to get the features working on SteamOS, like showing time to beat, changing the artwork, all that sort of thing. But one of the things that SteamOS does is you don't have to have a Steam controller for it to work. You can hook up any controller and it's aware of it's like the picture of the controller will change as you connect up a controller. If you have a PlayStation controller, it will change. It'll show you the context and all the different features. Same thing with Xbox controller or a generic controller. One thing I noticed with Winhanced, though, since it's intended to be on a Windows handheld, the controller support, it didn't change context with the controllers. It just basically said, here, so you can configure the back panels. And that's great. And some people, just like with a Steam Deck, they can connect to a TV or whatever. And to do that, you're going to use an external controller. So I kind of wanted to see some support for additional controllers, at least an Xbox controller. When you hook it up, that it knows what it is. So, and as I mentioned, that's why SteamOS is great, or basically any Windows game launcher is just lacking. Even like last week I showed a front-end launcher that's intended just for classic DOS games called Exodus. And it's still fourth wall breaking, even though it's a front end. It's meant to be a launcher, but it's not a whole system in and of itself. It's like when you close the game, you still go back to the Windows desktop. And while Winhanced is meant to be an all-in-one thing, it's not a shell replacement. Basically, if you have to set up there's some fourth wall breaking things, like if you have to connect to Ubisoft or whatever, it breaks you out of that and brings you to the desktop. You have to log in, and sometimes that the Winhanced loses focus and it's hard to find it again and all that sort of thing. So it's glaringly obvious that you're running on Windows, and it's hard to get back to where you were. Like one of the things I did on a Android handheld that my son showed me, even though it's still a general purpose operating system, and there are some fourth wall breaking things that happen, you can set up one of the, like the front end I was using called ISU, and you can set that up as the home application. So when you click home, it takes you there. So if you have to close out of a game, it'll take you back to ISU, not to the Android desktop. And so that's the kind of thing that I want to see on something like Winhanced, is if there's a way to set Winhanced up as the home app or the desktop or the shell. So if something breaks, you can press home and go back, or you go right back into Winhanced. So it's like there's guardrails. It doesn't necessarily, anyway, so that's my thing. That's where like Linux distributions, especially for retro games like Bethesda, come in, where if you run out of because it's integrated, everything on the controls, you can set up hotkeys that are system-wide. Like if you want to exit out of a game, I think in Bethesda that you can set it up, but basically it's either Xbox and start or select and start depending on your controller support. But there's a hotkey you can set up that always takes you back to the launcher. And that's the kind of thing I want to see, something that doesn't break. Like because Winhanced was a layer and you have to have multiple stores running, you have you have the Xbox store, Steam, Epic, you have all these launchers running and they're fighting with each other for context and control. Like in Steam, you can press the Xbox button and it'll open up the Steam overlay. And Winhanced intercepts that, but when Winhanced loses focus, Steam takes over. So I pressed this Xbox button when I was testing it, and something broke, and Winhanced closed, and I pressed the Xbox button again, and Steam opened. So there's things like that. But the only reason I mention that again is when you have an integrated system, those types of things go away, and you have a more console-like experience. If you're going to try and slap an app on top of a general purpose operating system, there's going to be some problems. But you can check out, that video. And let's see, as I mentioned, today is my daughter's 21st birthday, and I've been doing a lot of content about VR headsets lately, particularly the Steam Frame. And I got her, she's been wanting to play VR, and she's mobility limited, as I've mentioned before. And so there's only so many of these games that she can play, but she's wanted to play, stuff on the VR headset. And so I got her one. And so I got her a Quest 3S. And even though I'm talking about and that's part of the thing in the articles and the reviews I've been doing, is like people said that I'm on like Valve's payroll because I've really been hyping the Steam Frame. And it's good, and that's the thing is, but it's not for everyone. It's not for you. For some people, it's the price. It's the, the cost of entry. Just kind of like, a Ferrari or a Porsche is a really nice car. And there are people who go out of their way and they really love them. But how much does that help you if you just need to commute to work? Some people just want a good enough experience with VR. They can connect to their PC and do PC VR, and that's just good enough for them. That's what they want to do. So great. And I got, so while I'm going to get a Steam Frame when it comes out, because I want the features that it has, for my daughter, a MetaQuest is good enough. We can do PC VR. We have a lot of stuff on Steam that are VR games, and that's what she wants to play. So I'm not being two-faced. I'm a journalist. I feel like I'm fair and balanced and support all the angles. So it's a matter of what happens to you. It's not like it's like go out and get a Steam Frame and everyone should get a Steam Frame. That's it. It's like, what matters for you. And so a MetaQuest right now is the point of entry for a lot of people. I've mentioned this before. Is generally, if you notice the patterns of a given gaming platform, the one that usually dominates is usually the cheapest one. The DS line dominated by far in terms of the console because it was the cheapest. Wii dominated because it was the cheapest. And so MetaQuest currently is the cheapest. They're subsidizing. Meta is subsidizing, but it is the cheapest. And you can get a 128 gigabyte model for $350. You can get the 256 gigabyte model for like $450. But those are, the resolution on each eyepiece is a little bit lower. If you go up to the 550 model, not only do you get more storage, but it's a different optical experience. It's basically 4K per eye. And that's around on the same par as what the Steam frame is. It's about 4K per eye. The resolution is different, but it's enough pixels that it's basically about the same. So anyway, it's my daughter's 21st birthday. She likes to play Beat Saber, and so she's going to be really excited when we get that. And there's enough storage on there that we can play. She can play Beat Saber without the PC. She has a all-in-one mini PC, and she won't necessarily have to play a PC VR. She can download the game directly to her headset and play it off of that. So just plug it in and go. That's part of one of the things about having onboard storage. It's like, so if you don't have a PC, and that's one of the things about the frame, it's like, if I wish they did have two different models of these things. So if you only care about PC VR and you don't care about running things on the headset, then they should have a cheaper model where all it does is just connect to the headset and there you go. But a lot of headsets nowadays have some amount of onboard storage so you can play a game directly within the headset. And maybe that was a thing that Valve missed out on, is, if they want to do just PC VR, and that's what they're really targeting, why wasn't there a model that just basically is kind of like the Steam Connect? Where you just connect to a PC and it's intended for remote. I don't know, but the Steam frame is, you can play games. It's kind of like a Steam Deck for your face, in that it's its own dedicated operating system. You can play it completely standalone without a PC, but if you want to connect it to a PC, it's got that adapter. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about, is because I did an article this week about the adapter, and that the adapter support has been added to SteamOS officially. And in the past, whenever some Steam hardware made it into SteamOS, the product launch was shortly after. So we're anticipating that. The signs are getting closer. So why did I choose this VR headset, the Meta Quest? Basically because it's what Best Buy had in stock. It's completely wireless, and it's good enough for her. So, articles this week. So, the number 3000, there are some things that are serendipitous. The number 3000. So, we hit a milestone this week. We hit 3,000 subscribers. We have 875,000 views and over 3,000 watch hours. And so we qualify for the YouTube Partner Program. So I'm now officially a YouTube partner. I applied and they said it could take a month to get approved, but I was approved within a couple of days. So this has been a dream of mine for years. That the possibility of doing this full time is actually realistic. So now that I'm a YouTube partner, there's another milestone I got to hit in order to really help keep the lights on, getting money from doing this full time. But right now you can hype videos, do a super thanks. Like there are a lot of people that have thanked me for doing some of the support for fixing their Steam Deck. And so you can do a super thanks if you want, buy me a coffee. I'm going to be implementing some memberships so that you can get early access to things, be able to get personal time with me, get on social media, of course, do badges, stuff like that. So I'm going to be implementing some of that. I mean, I just got this yesterday. So, and supporting us, no matter how it is, if it's just leaving a like, or if you want to buy me a coffee or whatever, it helps show this, and you can now hype the videos. So if you want to show this to other people, if some of the videos helped you out, and you want other people to see it, then hype it, do a like, put a comment. I'm pretty responsive with a comment. So if you are having a support issue, or if I show you how to do something that doesn't work for you, write a comment. And I try to be pretty quick with the responses. And I'd like to be able to talk one-on-one with you if, we can set that up. So let's see. I'm working on some OCmodshop merchandise. working on the next level of monetization, and basically doing that means making more content for you that you guys want to see. What else have we got going on? We have the Gears of War E-Day multiplayer beta. So I love Gears of War. I mean, I'm not like a super mega fan, but of a lot of the games that were on the 360 era, Gears of War is pretty fun. It's like near and dear to my heart, just because some people are nostalgic about the days, Nintendo or Atari 2600 or whatever. And for me, as a young adult, Gears of War is one of those things for me, because I just, it wasn't about that the game was so fun. It was also a snapshot in time of what things meant for me and what was going on in my life. And it brings me back into that warm, cozy place. So anyway, the Gears of War multiplayer beta dropped, and I'm going to show you some footage of that in a second. And I put this on the website. So on the secondary channel, OCmodshop clips, we have the gameplay, and there's a benchmark mode on here. So I'll play some in a minute, show you some in a minute, but basically this is the gameplay for that. The thing is, when I was doing, when I was launching the game, this is just the multiplayer beta. This isn't the full thing. This is just doing multiplayer. But it required, I have an AMD card. It required an updated graphics card driver, 26.7.1. And I was talking before about when I was playing Black Flag. One of the things that AMD did was they rolled out FSR 4.1 and the 26.6 drivers. And I had nothing but problems since then. And so whenever I would enable FSR, hold on a second, a quick water break. Whenever I'd enable FSR 4.1, the game would crash, and I just had some breaking experiences. But then I saw, since I was required to update my graphics drivers in order to play Gears of War, it was 26.7.1. I'm like, okay, well, it's a new subversion. I'll install it. So I installed it, and FSR 4.1 worked. I was elated. However, today when I came in to set up doing this podcast, my desktop was in VGA mode, and this also happened to 26.6 drivers. Basically, that's what happens when the graphics driver crashes. It goes back to VGA mode, and you can't select any other graphics mode. You basically have to reboot, and that's what I did. And so I'm going to be probably uninstalling this, because the 26.7, there's something, maybe it's my system, but there's something that's breaking. The graphics driver is breaking still. But anyway, at the time, I installed 26.7.1, and I was able to play the multiplayer beta. And it was working properly. So, and there was a benchmark on that, and without FSR 4.1 or in frame generation, I was getting about 90 frames a second, and with it on, well, I was getting a lot more than that, like 120 or so. And that's also in the benchmark mode in here when you click on the video. So the drivers still have some work to do for AMD. But I am going to try 26.7 on Black Flag and see if I can enable FSR 4.1. So before I go on to the other stuff, let me go ahead and let's play some of this video. So of course, compiling shaders took a while.
It's my monitor refresh rate.
This is the benchmark. You see right here, the benchmark, it was getting about 80 frames a second. And this is at 1440p. Ultra widescreen, so it was about 30% more pixels than a normal 1440p. So close to 4K. So you could probably expect similar performance on a true 4K
frame rate. 244 frames a second. Well, that's my monitor resolution.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I'll be
Here's a select screen. You can select between Dom, Marcus, or a generic grunt. And there's a leveling system where as you do different rounds, you can replenish your ammo, get better weapons, basically get points. And then when you're in the lobby, you can configure your character.
I'm no Gears noob, but multiplayer can be ruthless. So prepare to see me get my butt handed to me.
Yeah, so there's Horde Siege, and it's 4 people per team, it looks like.
I'll be providing you updates as you go.
And like many multiplayers, there's a countdown to do before the round starts, so you can get ready. So basically, you get to a spot and you have to defend some piece of technology while they try and come in and take it over. And similar run and gun type of cover shooter type stuff. And if you get downed, other people can help you up, just like in Gears of War. And of course, the fast reload system that rewards you. So, and you only have so many downs. In the multiplayer, you have 1, 2, 3, 5 downs. You can get down 5 times before you're out, looks like. And I was playing this on a controller, so the accuracy isn't. But the playability is very similar to other Gears of War. You know, press A to run. You know, there's a jumping and slide mechanic, but basically the fast reload and aiming and everything is very similar to all the other Gears games that you played before. And of course, when someone's downed, you can execute them, do a curb stomp.
Get ready for reinforcements! Move it!
And so when you're done defending, you go back and basically do an extraction. So you have to run back, and there's going to be some grunts, some people waiting for you. And so you're going to have to clear the area before you can do an extraction. Even though it's all gray and dystopian, it's a very pretty game. If you can say that a very gray environment is pretty. There's a lot of detail here, and the game needs a pretty beefy computer to be able to run it. So. Yeah, so we clear the area, and then that's where our helicopter comes down, where you can extract. And then you have access to a super weapon to basically clear people that are trying to keep you from taking off.
All accounted for? Good. Control, this is KRA-0. We're heading back to base. 0 casualties. Outstanding.
So that was that. So go check out that video on the OCmodshop Clips channel. There's a link to that on the OCmodshop website. And I'll put the links, of course, to all the news articles and everything, and all in the description of this video once it goes live. And of course, as I mentioned, it takes about half a day for YouTube to process this live stream so that you can watch it, do the rebroadcast. But it's going to be on Spotify shortly after this broadcast, because I'm recording this separately and I'll upload it to Spotify. But anyway, that was the Gears of War multiplayer. So let's see. there was another article about the Steam frame adapter and why Valve is doing this now. This is basically this Valve added preliminary support for the Steam frame adapter to SteamOS. This is a direct connection from the PC to the headset that bypasses your Wi-Fi router. And this also leverages, because some people are saying, well, what's the big deal about this? Well, it's that what was in it? So people are saying, oh, why are they putting this in now? It's like, this, were they delayed or whatever? It's like, no, this isn't working. This isn't the first time that they're getting the Steam frame adapter working at all. This was adding support. If you look at the code, which is in the article, in the video, we look at the code, and this is about adding wake so that the adapter can wake up the Steam machine. It's not that this is the first time they got the wireless adapter working. This is that the adapter can wake up the Steam machine from sleep mode. So it's integration. The story is that the big story is not that they're adding the adapter to SteamOS. The big story is that all of this is integrated. The Steam machine, Steam frame, the Steam frame adapter, the controller all work together. You can wake one up from the other. They talk to each other. The adapter also leverages eye tracking there's some intelligence. It's not just it's just a dumb streamer from your PC to the headset. It also communicates with the headset in that it looks at the eye tracking, so it knows how to do foveated streaming. What are you looking at? So it can give high resolution of that part that you're looking at, so that it can use less bandwidth to render the other parts or to display the other parts of what's in the headset. That's the big story. It's that this is being added to SteamOS, not that this is the first time that they are getting this working in SteamOS. It's being added to SteamOS. Some people were asking if this was this is a connection between the between the Steam frame or some people were asking if you could use this to leverage a connection between the Steam controller or a Steam Deck and your PC. But no, this is dedicated for the Steam frame. This adapter isn't going to be used for anything else. It's going to be basically hard associated with your Steam frame. So there's not going to be a way to have a dedicated connection between your Steam Deck and your PC. I have other article on how to get your Steam Deck to work as a Steam controller, essentially. And so check out that video on how to do that. Let's see, what else? Gaming's biggest lie. Buying isn't owning. And so I've talked this to death for the past couple of weeks the genesis of all of this discussion was when Sony announced that they're going to be ending physical disc support. And this is basically industry-wide, but Sony became the target, essentially, for the industry, or became the poster child for something that's happening within the industry. And people are all up in arms about it. But you don't own your digital games, and here's why. And that's what this article is all about. So go check that out. I mean, they show King Kong there, but that's because the example of Nintendo, why Nintendo's so litigious, is because of their fight that they prevailed over when they made Donkey Kong, and Universal sued them Nintendo won because basically Universal hadn't used their IP in so long that it kind of became public domain. And so that's why Nintendo is litigious and goes after people, because if they let anything slide, then people can use their stuff for general purpose or whatever. They might lose a case over they might lose control over their intellectual property, and so it's not just Nintendo. A lot of companies are doing that. And so when it comes to digital games and stuff like that, they have rules. There's the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which actually defends you in a lot of cases in terms of making backup. Basically, similar to Universal's way that they lost something. If you don't use it, you lose it. It's the same thing with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Basically says if a company doesn't make a game available to play, then it's fair game. People can make backups of their games and play them, and if you're not making it commercially available, then that's on you. So, but in general, you don't own your digital games, whether it's a physical copy or a digital game. Since you still have to authenticate through a service, you can't play a game even if you have it on disk, because you can't play it off of the disk anymore. You basically have to download it because there's patches. Even if you insert a disk, there's going to be patches and updates. And but if you were completely offline and never installed the game before, you probably could insert a disk, install it, and play it. But at some point, it's going to make you go online. But anyway, the whole gist of this, and go check this out. I talk about this at length about what your rights are. And basically, the gaming industry, you don't own your games. You license them. And so go check that video out. Let's see, articles next week. Since there's been a lot of interest in handhelds, I got some cheap Android, some cheap handhelds for retro gaming. I have an R36S review coming out next week. I was going to do it this week, but other things got more priority, so I done the review. Is going to be coming out tomorrow, I think. And a Mangmi Air X Android handheld. And I did some more testing with the AYN Thor, and we got Quake 2 RTX running, and that's, I've mentioned that before, but we got it running with a keyboard and mouse, running at 45 frames per second on a handheld, an ARM chip running Quake 2 ray traced at around 45 frames a second. It was very playable, ray traced at 1080 resolution, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm working on that video now. I have captured the footage. So that's going to be coming out next week. And of course, if there's anything that drops about the Steam frame, that's going to take precedence, and I'm going to quickly get coverage out of that. So it seems like things are getting closer. I thought that this was the Steam frame would have been announced by now, but it looks like it's getting closer. It's been added to SteamOS, and as soon as it drops, you'll know. So subscribe for when that drops. So let me address some comments, because here's one thing is like, people, I can say about, comments or, negativity, and I can get all bent out of shape about it or whatever. But here's the thing. If people one of the worst things for a YouTuber is if you're putting out content and you're getting no attention. Nobody cares about it at all. You're not getting anything. So negative, even if it's a negative comment, I really see it as a positive thing, because like if you built a sandcastle, there's always going to be people that, are bullies, or that they have a chip on their shoulder about whatever reason they want to knock over your sandcastle. But here's the thing. If people want to knock over your sandcastle, that means you had a sandcastle worth knocking over. You had a sandcastle that invoked some jealousy or something. So if people want to knock it, then it's worth knocking over. And so that's kind of how I see it. It's like, I do want to see the comments are constructive, but I do want to address some things. Like there's some complaints about how I do some things, like, in my videos, I do some hand waving or whatever. Or some people have accused me of having, doing AI scripts or whatever. So I'm still learning, and a lot of what I do has some purpose behind it. So if you don't think, that why is he doing that or whatever, it's like some of the things like I am aware of, and I basically have paid for some media consultants to help me, and that's one reason I've been able to grow as quickly as I have. Like there are some things I notice of, like, eye contact, and that's one reason I got a teleprompter, so that I can be more professional and have quality content. I'm not going at this blind. I'm treating this like a business, and I pay media consultants for strategy. And so I'm going to address some of the comments that you guys have mentioned. Like the hand waving. There's a reason for that. It's by design and to get attention. Unfortunately, the majority of viewers on YouTube are not those with long attention spans. You're sitting on the toilet and watching this. You want a quick dopamine hit or whatever. You have to keep earning. Basically, the reality of doing content on YouTube and some of these, and even TikTok and these things, you have to keep earning the viewer's attention every 30 seconds. The journalism style is completely different than a written article, as I found. It's like when I first started OCmodshop, the YouTube channel, brought it back up, I thought I could just take some old reviews and basically narrate them, and but that went over like a lead balloon. How you do things, how you produce content for consumption with a video is completely different. I've been accused of using AI scripts, and I guess because it's so well researched and thorough, I would think that I can see, when watching some of my videos, I can see that some of the perceived awkwardness is me honing my acting craft. It's like, I do have a teleprompter. It's not that I'm reading a script word for word. I'm being prompted. And sometimes I can read I'll write it out because I'm used to writing articles, and I can get a little wordy. And so sometimes I feel like if I read the words word for word, that it sounds like this, not natural, that it's not my words. And I guess people are interpreting that as an AI script or an AI wrote it. So I'm working on my delivery being more natural. And I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to be using some language that's more relatable. There are some things that are quicker with AI. Everybody uses AI today. All the companies, I do use AI to gather ideas for videos, perhaps image for a B-roll, but not anything that portrays a real person, real place, or real event. As a matter of fact, YouTube slapped me. I did a parody video about the Microsoft layoffs, and I had AI generate a fictitious office background or a conference room background, but in the style of Microsoft. And because it looked like a Microsoft office, and I used to work at Microsoft, so I can verify it's a similar style. But because it kind of portrayed a real place, they forced an AI label on that video. It's not that it was AI generated or an AI script. It's just, but it's one of those things. So I'm aware of those types of things. If there's an image that does a real person, place, or real event, then I'm not going to use it. It's like I had AI generate an image for a abstract concept, honey roasted gaming news, because I was talking about Billy Wicked Wilson. And there was a comment where this was AI slop. Some people are really sensitive to that. And if you don't like AI being used at all, then just don't go outside anymore. Turn off your computer and never watch TV again, because AI is in everything. And don't have a cell phone, because AI is being used against you. Because how AI works, AI is really community aggregate, and so there's a lot of data that's streamed into a data blob, and it's so big it's hard to shift through. And what AI does is it goes through these data blobs and then notices patterns and extracts things. And there's analyses that run all the time that take a lot of computing power to do, and that's where the intelligence comes from, is sifting through lots of data that trickles in from thousands and millions of different data points. If you have your phone, it's how traffic works. So there's AI traffic, and how Google Maps knows that there's a traffic slowdown is because all of a sudden hundreds of people's Android phones and even Apple phones know their GPS changes suddenly, and so it can infer that they're in their car and they're on the road and something suddenly stopped. And if that data point also coincides with one or two people suddenly stopping, they can tell if it's a crash or if it's a police car or whatever. There's a lot of things. That's where the intelligence comes in from. So there's a lot of AI in every aspect of your life. So if you don't like AI, then just don't be part of society, because AI is everywhere. Companies use AI for everything. It's not that it's a tool. It's not being used to write the stuff for you. It does make some things faster, and I've seen in some of the companies that I've been at, even recently, they are letting people go because they think that AI will allow one person to do the work of three. No kidding. That's what they think, and so they let people go. And because it does make things, you can make things faster. Your workload can be faster, but that doesn't mean that other people aren't necessary. The point is, a lot of businesses use AI, and if you don't, you're going to get left behind. Let's see. There was one time, and this was way before AI, I pushed myself out of a job because all the work could be done in an hour using a spreadsheet. This was a manual paper job, sifting through papers and stuff like that. And basically, I created a spreadsheet that did all my work in an hour. And as soon as my boss discovered that, he let me go. And I guess people are thinking the same thing with AI. It's like, oh, this gets a lot of work done, but they're not seeing the quality of work or if it's accurate or anything like that. They're just seeing work gets done quicker, so we don't need as many people. And companies are justifying letting people go. But you have to know enough about the subject to know if it's correct. Garbage in, garbage out. You got to constantly check that the stuff that AI is producing is correct. Like, I don't have AI write my scripts, but there is AI that helps validate some, that helps with some stuff. And so there have been some times where there have been things that I wouldn't say are factually wrong, but given certain context needed more clarification. And so you got to double check some stuff. Even when you do AI stuff, you got to double check that stuff. It can make stuff quicker. It can write a paper for you. It can do an outline for you, but check to make sure it's right. And so when people are criticizing me or whatever, it's like, if you're going to criticize, where do you stand? While it's uncomfortable putting my face out here, there's a lot of people who criticize, and I look at their channels or whatever, and a lot of people aren't YouTubers or whatever, but some people are criticizing me and doing reviews, but they're not putting their face out there or even their voice. And so I'm putting myself out there. If you're going to be an armchair warrior, then put yourself in other people's shoes. I'm putting myself out there. Because, I do take criticisms and feedback so that I can improve. But like a lot of people, if someone's criticizing you, it's like, you got to ask yourself if their opinion has any merit. And so one thing I do is, if someone is criticizing me about the art of video making, but they don't have any video making experience, then their opinion has less weight. So that's all I got to say to that. So I do check out, it's like when people comment, I check to see where they're coming from, to be relatable. I want to check in with the audience. Like if are people the average gamer, or are they more into VR? Do they, I try to get some demographics based on what the comments are and stuff like that. It's not a matter of, oh, I'm going to dismiss this person's opinion because they are into anime or they don't play the same games I do or something like that. It's to gather all the information. That's all I'm saying. I'm getting long in the tooth. So we're going to go into the gaming news. And so part of this is like, one of the things I noticed is like, you may have noticed that in the podcast, I used to do the news first, and now I'm doing the topics first, and then doing the news, because I would find that I'm trying to do viewer retention. If I'm doing the news first and it takes an hour to get through all the news, I may lose people. So let me know. Tell me what, I think I messed up this podcast, and I think it disabled comments because now that I'm now a YouTube partner program, it gave me some more options. And because people can give a super thanks or whatever in chat, and I think I accidentally hit the wrong thing, and I think chat is disabled for this one, but I'll fix that. This is new. This is all new to me. So let's do some gaming news. So there's a new topic, new category. I'm going to get some more water. Hold on. About gaming rights. So this kind of goes into, your rights. People can tell you what you can and can't play. So Halloween, the game, is going to be coming out next month. And some people, thousands of people, aren't going to be able to play it. It's unplayable for people in New Zealand, Australia, New Zealand. Denied classification due to drug use mechanics preventing official sales in these regions. So people in Australia and New Zealand are not going to be able to legally, officially play Halloween when it comes out. So the reason I mention this is just because of the whole digital rights. This isn't even digital rights management, but this is other people can tell you what you can and can't play. And I've said this before, and there was a comment someone had that they were confused by this. Video games are a form of social expression and art, and they should be treated with the same reverence and value that any great work of fiction, novel, movie is done. Even stuff that people see have no value, like people could say Postal has no social value, no redeeming it. It's just garbage. There's value in it. There's lowbrow comedy. There's lowbrow art, but it's still art. And, and people telling you what you can and can't consume based on their value system. There's things I disagree with, but I'm not going to tell other people they can't do it. That's what this is all about. The reason I mention this is because other people telling you what art you can and can't like, what art you can or can't consume. Aliens Fireteam Elite is now unplayable on the Switch. So if you paid money for this, you now can't play it because they took the servers down. It's completely unplayable, even offline, after its cloud servers were shut down. So even if you... Okay, so you can't play it online, but because they took their servers down, you can't play it offline. You lost your money. People who paid $30 to $60 for the game or the DLC can't access it, highlighting the risks of cloud-only games. So that's some of the stuff I talk about. If you're a game preservationist, and I know some people that host their own servers. My son hosts his own servers for some things because I won't get into that, but you can host your own stuff. But people will take stuff away from you. And Amazon continues to abandon gaming by dropping 2 MMO. It's funny how you can buy games on Amazon. And it's not, but Amazon continues to abandon gaming. So Wish 2 MMOs. Throne and Liberty will leave Amazon Game Studios later this year in Q4. Moving to First Spark Games, and Lost Ark will follow in next year, with Smilegate taking over Western Publishing. So this is just to illustrate that games can be taken away from you. So, and they do. And this is just stuff that happened. I didn't have to look hard for this stuff. This stuff happens frequently now. Let's open up some of the Xbox news. So there might be some Microsoft stuff mixed in here too. Purported Xbox Elite Series 3 controller prototype somehow ends up in a customer's hands. So take a look at this. This is a prototype. This isn't a final thing, and maybe this isn't even real. But this is the purported Xbox Elite Series 3 controller. That's the thing about the Series 2, is that it still looks like an Xbox One controller. It is missing the share So there's some extra buttons that are on Xbox Series controllers, a share button, and so basically right now, since I'm using an Elite 2, if I want to capture a screenshot or game footage, I have to press the Xbox button and then press X or Y. But there's a dedicated capture button on the new Series, on a Series controller. And so this is a Series Elite 3, and that's going to have those extra buttons and profiles. And look at this. It looks like... So they usually come with some longer thumbsticks, which I am a fan of, but I don't see that here. This is a prototype. Basically, the ABXY... I would love for Xbox to embrace some of the features that other game controllers are having, particularly gyro aiming. And by God, oh my God, finally get over the 2.4 gigahertz thing. Do something that's better, because when playing from a headset connected to the controller, it crackles all the time. You can't really fix that with, so I'm assuming that since this is, unless they launch this with Helix, if this is going to be backwards compatible with a Series, then it's still going to have the 2.4 gigahertz wireless technology, which means that the audio issues will still plague us in the next system. Anyway, the Xbox Elite Series 3 controller hasn't even been officially announced yet, but a prototype has found its way into the hands of someone who thought that they were buying Elite Series 2 controller on the retail website OfferUp. So, and then they posted this to Reddit and the subreddit r/controller, and asking if they've managed to get themselves an Elite Series 3. And so someone responded, that's definitely a dev kit Elite 3. And it may have been encrypted to use only with a registered dev account on Xbox. So, but it's interesting to see that a design, a potential design. But if that's the case, it looks like not much is changing. Just the design, all the buttons are still going to be the same. It would be great if these new ones, even if they were compatible, just kind of like the Series, the regular controllers now work with Bluetooth and Xbox. It would be super awesome if you could have a dongle so that it connected directly with it. So moving on to the next piece. Xbox head Asha Sharma reportedly visited Bethesda headquarters, and workers had put up some red flags representing laid off staff and a giant inflatable rat outside. And so there's a picture of that. And so there's, ZeniMax Media. It's probably a weird day to be working at Bethesda. So, and I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that right after the layoffs happened, people put up memorials for thank you for your service to people, and HR made them take those memorials down within an hour. So it's a weird day to be working at Bethesda's Rockville headquarters. In a week's time, August 18th, the Communication Workers of America have organized numerous rallies across the U.S. and Canada in support of Xbox workers, 1,600 which may lose their jobs over the next year, on top of the 1,600 who've already been laid off. In a CWA union members have already initiated a protest outside Bethesda's HQ in the form of a giant inflatable rat and a huge number of planted red flags, each one representing a laid-off worker, as Xbox CEO Asha Sharma reportedly visited. So, and that's the thing about a union, is like one of the things, some people who, and I have some inside information about, some of the inner workings of this. And when you're unions, they're protected. And some people, when there were layoffs last year, some people kind of be held in a holding pattern while negotiations are going around. And if you're a software developer, you're in the union, but I don't think that people who are in management qualify to be in the union. So a lot of people who are laid off, some people are okay when they got laid off, they got severance and whatever, and they got a soft landing, but not everyone did. Basically, if you weren't in the union, you got shafted, and that's basically management. If you were a management position, you probably got shafted. And that goes back into the whole thing. I did a rant a little bit about if you have to be forced to do the right thing, then you're not a good person. If you have to be forced to do the right thing, you're not a good company. And that's illustrated by so you're going to lay a bunch of people off having to do the right thing by them. You were forced to by union, by legal things. So the people who were management got shafted. They didn't have to do things for them, and they got screwed. And that's not cool. So instead of, you can read this article. As I mentioned, all of the articles here are going to be on the OCmodshop website after we're done here. But you can read more about this. But it's just interesting that, so if these guys weren't part of a union, there is no way in the world that they would have been able to do this protest, because this was a union, their presence allowed that to happen. 30 years later, Quake gets a major update with loads of new content. There's a new episode, Dawn of the Machine. It adds 19 new levels, new enemies, and weapons like a super axe and a laser cannon, designed for replayability with collectible runes and retained upgrades. So here's a screenshot of it. 30 years later, Quake gets a major update with loads of new content. Hey, I have Steam open. Where is it? Let's open it up. Oh yeah, so here's the Gears of War E-Day. So you can see Gears of War E-Day is coming October 6th. But the multiplayer, if you signed it up early, then you have access to that. But anyway, let's look at Quake. So what did I say this was? Dawn of the Machine. Go to the store page. Is it even out? Ah! No, don't play the music. Well, I'll check that out. So anyway. New episode. Now on Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Windows PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. So maybe that's not on Steam. Maybe that's in Xbox. All right, fine. Open up Xbox. There we go. Search Quake. Because it is owned by Microsoft now. Maybe it's a... So it's on Game Pass, so... So that's one thing I think. I don't think you have to sign into a Microsoft account to play Quake on Steam, but if you do play it from the Xbox store, there's probably some achievements and stuff. So it might be that this episode is only on from the Xbox store. I'm not going to talk about that. 3 problems a self-resetting Windows PC can solve. Well, that's the thing. You shouldn't have to reset your PC. I had to reset my PC because the graphics driver crashed. I shouldn't have to do that. I've heard about Linux distributions designed to be difficult to break, and it got me wondering if I could build something similar with Windows. Yeah, Windows can be rock solid, but you have to. And they're back at doing administration stuff. Windows Server out of the box wasn't as reliable or secure as it could be. In terms of when you compare to Linux out of the box and it being secure. You can make Windows secure, but you have to know what you're doing, and a lot of stuff's hidden. So you probably can make Windows rock solid too. And that, I think, the people are fighting. It's like Windows supports a lot. Part of the things that it's not necessarily Microsoft's fault for one of the reasons that Windows could be unstable. It's because there's so many different things like graphics drivers and stuff like that by different vendors and sort of things. So if you're going to make Windows rock solid, I would say have a very small set of hardware and drivers that's supported. Yeah, read that article. There's some tips there about making Windows more stable. 5 of the strangest Xbox controllers we've ever seen. Okay, let's take a look at that. No, this is a slideshow. Okay, different skin. A fuzzy Xbox controller. Okay. Okay, so these are just skins or covers. Okay. Looks like a controller for a mech. Yeah, and the old Xbox. I know that there's some old. There's some new Xbox controllers that are meant to look like old classic Xbox controllers, and so you can get some of those. Okay, neat. Xbox finally fixes bug that makes it impossible to play physical games. Xbox patched a bug that prevented some players from launching games, including physical discs, after a system update caused cascading failures in license checks. So that's the thing. It goes back to what I was talking about. Even if you have a physical disc, there is a license check. Scott Van Vliet confirmed engineers are improving software reliability and taking over the previously external service to prevent future issues. And so here's the thing, and I did a thing about this too, so there's license checks. So what happens if your internet goes down or there's a service outage? Even if the system's running perfectly, if you can't talk to it, you can't play your game. If the game is designed to do a license check before you can play it, that's the problem. Xbox is exploring quality of life updates and features like digitizing physical game collections, aiming to enhance player experience across consoles and PC. Okay, enhance play. There are advantages to digital games. I'll give you that. Is it worth it for you? If you have to phone home, that's part of the. I've talked about this till I'm blue in the face. I'm done talking about it. Our digital only games. It's the way that the world's going. You can't really change it. And that's just the way the industry is. It's that they can tell you what you can and can't play. Things that are beyond your control can prevent you from playing a game, like your internet being out. But if they're baking in license check into the games, that's just expect that other people are going to tell you what you can and can't do. Xbox has apparently fixed the bug that contributed to some players being able to launch games, including those on physical discs. And so people have argued with me. I said, when you put in a disc, it's still going to phone home. And people argue with me that, no, that's not how it works. This article, Xbox themselves says they bake in a license check to a physical game. You put in a physical disc, it checks to see if you have that license. Because now with a disc to digital, that license can be tied to an account. You can still give the disc to someone else. And then when they put it in, it's going to be ripped away from you and given to them, the licenses. So there's license checks for physical games. So here it is, black and white. Official, even though I've shown it to you before. Physical games still do license checks. Xbox add more perks for Game Pass members in August. Hooray! More games. Free games and perks. Xbox Game Pass members can access free titles and in-game rewards. Ultimate, Essential, and Premium members all have the perks available in the Perks tab in the Xbox game. Okay, right. This is more of a PR. This is an advertisement more than an article. Monthly highlights includes Fortnite Crew. Yay. Lego Pass, Music Pass, 1,000 V-Bucks. Okay, that's for Fortnite. August exclusives, special items like the First Descendant Dimensional Clash, benefits, Frag Punk Pinball, Pranks Weapon Skin. Okay, so these are... check this out if you want, but it doesn't seem like it's a big thing. I let Xbox mode take over my gaming PC startup, and it solved the Windows 11 problem I never could. People have said that the Xbox mode can be good. So, and one of the things I talked about with Winhanced, one of the questions I had is like, because it's a layer on top of Windows, how is this going to compare and compete with the Xbox mode that there is being rolled out in the Xbox app? Because there's a lot of services and stuff like that that Windows does that you don't need. But in Xbox mode, it can make games more performant, I guess, either by shutting off services or turning things down, or I don't know exactly all the details of it. But let's see what they have to say. I've been interested in what Xbox mode actually does and if it actually improves game performance to the level that Linux gaming does. And one of the reasons that Linux gamings are more performant is because it doesn't have all these services, robbing cycles or taking up memory. Full screen gaming boots directly into a controller-friendly, clutter-free interface, showing your entire game library and skipping the traditional desktop. And that's great. That's kind of what SteamOS is doing. And even if you're on Windows, big picture mode on Steam does. There can be some fourth wall breaking things, but I would imagine there's less of that. Quality of life boost. Does not increase FPS, but reduces distractions, making the PC feel like a console experience for weekends. Setup and compatibility. Easy to force install via Vive tool. Supports auto login and works with DualSense controllers. Okay. Using DS for Windows. Though some games and dual monitor setups may need some manual adjustments. Yeah, that's going to be that's one of the things about a console is they don't have to deal with dual monitor things, and so there can be some complications with doing dual. So people can knock Windows PCs, but they have to do a lot more and be more compatible. It's not a closed known hardware set. So on one hand, Windows get it together, but on the other hand, they have an impossible task. So I force installed Xbox mode to boot into a clean controller-friendly full screen and get. Okay, it doesn't use boost FPS. Microsoft has been steadily rolling out. Let me see. I try to make Windows feel less and less like Windows. Microsoft's desktop OS throws enough small problems and hindrances. So what's the thing? Installing quick. It feels pretty nifty. Xbox mode cuts through the usual Windows 11 noise. Yeah, just read this article. So Windows can boot directly into Xbox mode. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, though. Maybe if you have a dedicated gaming PC, you could do that. But honestly, I would say if you have a dedicated gaming PC, then just install SteamOS. Go into settings, gaming, Xbox mode. Okay, you can read that article. But what's the gist of this? That's the whole thing. Booting in Xbox mode has genuinely simplified my weekends. Okay, great. But does it? Xbox mode does not help games run faster. That's what I wanted to find out. But it just is a more seamless interface. Okay. So, or you could just do Steam Big Picture mode. Xbox officially celebrates 25th anniversary with free download for all players. Yippee! Players can claim the... Yeah, I looked at that. As soon as I saw this, I was like, okay, there's a badge you can get. And I went to my profile and I didn't see anything that was obvious, the Xbox 25th anniversary, but you can get a badge. So they're celebrating a 25th anniversary by giving you a badge that's hard to find. Xbox reveals stunning 3D molded, and this is the British spelling, Gears of War E-Day limited edition controllers. So those look sick. Sick in a good way. I have a Gears of War Xbox One controller and I love it. And so these look great too. I don't know if this is actually textured or if it's just made to look that way. They kind of, so there's this like little skull here and there's this Xbox on the skull, but they missed the mark a little bit, where the eyes are. They're missing the eye sockets. If they just move the graphic up just a little bit, this would have been perfect. But look, missed opportunity there. Look at that. Man. Okay. Gears of War E-Day free open beta starts today. This was the other day. This was August 13th. So that was Thursday. And I played it. It's good. I like it. Go play it. If you pre-ordered it, I think you have access to it. All right. So now you can see my face while I close these tabs and I do the next section of news. Honey roasted gaming. Well, I'm not even going to do that one because there's some free games you can get until August 13th. Well, it's past August 13th. This is no longer usable. Sure. There's a Sony thing. "27 years later, an inaccessible PlayStation 1 classic has come to modern console. UFO: A Day in the Life is now digitally available on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 5 for $12. Yay. Steam. So now we're on to some Valve news. The SteamOS beta adds preliminary support for Steam Frame's wireless adapter. Instead of a water break, I want to do a dirty Mountain Dew. So, wait. This is the dirty Mountain Dew, and look at this. Zero sugar is the zero sugar version, but it's really small print. It's really hard to tell if you're getting the full sugar version or not. And so this, how we got introduced to dirty Mountain Dew was from Taco Bell, because, basically they just add cream. It basically is vanilla. It's Mountain Dew, and they added some vanilla to it. But it's kind of neat, and so it's kind of hard to find. If you go to Walmart or whatever, you can pick it up. But it's tasty. If you like the special Mountain Dews that you can get at Taco Bell, yeah, this is one of them. Anyway, back to the gaming news for Valve. SteamOS. Well, the reason I did that is because I did a water break, and because I'm going to be talking a little long in the tooth about this. SteamOS beta adds preliminary support for Steam Frame's wireless adapter, and so I have an article about that. On OCmodshop, the Steam Frame link, and so there's like a video here you can watch. It's been taken off. It talks all about that, and so people had some questions about it and what it means. This is not that this is the first time that the adapter is working. This is just adding support for SteamOS, and this is just part of the normal development lifecycle of things. So it's not that it hasn't been working. This is the code added support so that it could wake up the Steam machine from the adapter. That's what this is all about. But that it's been added to SteamOS officially is the news. The newsworthy thing about this is that all of these pieces of hardware are meant to work together, and the glue of it is SteamOS. SteamOS allows all these different pieces of hardware to talk to each other and be aware of each other. So the streaming adapter for the frame also uses the eye tracking in the frame to assist with the bandwidth usage of the adapter, because it's foveated streaming. Basically, what you're looking at is going to get high resolution, get all the pixels dedicated to that for what's being streamed to you in PCVR. And the other stuff isn't going to be as much priority. It's a bandwidth saving thing, but they have to talk with each other. But SteamOS has support now for the Steam Frame adapter to wake up the Steam machine. So you should be able, from the Steam Frame controllers or a Steam controller, turn it on, wake up your headset, wake up the Steam machine. All this stuff will have. Turn on your TV if or whatever. All this stuff's going to be integrated. So Valve has done a lot of stuff to make these PCs work like consoles. They're not consoles. People, these are PCs. They're priced like PCs, and Valve has never said this is a console or a console killer. The gamers are saying that, and so it's like, yeah, $1,000 for a console. It's like Valve never said this is a console killer. But anyway, they've done things to get PCs to do things that that only consoles do, like waking up your TV. And I was just checking to see if Mario was still on, but it timed out. My Roku's playing. Anyway, we're getting 30 minutes, and so it's 90 minutes. Oh, getting to be 90 minutes here. So SteamOS has added support. Linux has better Windows game compatibility at this stage than Windows does, and Proton is why. I agree. Windows has always been the operating system to play games on, but Linux runs more games than Windows, though there are still some outliers that require Microsoft OS. Basically, anything that requires kernel-level anti-cheat play on Windows. Everything else, use Linux, and it'll be a great experience. Mostly, I've had some things where, like, your mileage will vary. Like, there was a game, Shift at Midnight, and playing multiplayer, it can work, but it's kind of, whenever I go to host a game, the options are grayed out or are not available. But I can still get into a game if somebody invites me. And there have been other little things, some little quirks and tweaks and stuff like that. But in general, you can get a good playable experience and run faster and better than Windows does on Linux. But your mileage will vary. It's not, and I know I keep banging the drum about easy to use console-like experiences. And so while Linux does make things more console-like and make things easier once it's set up, there are some games that don't work just right in Linux, and there's some troubleshooting to be had. Like, there are some games that don't work just right, like Dead by Daylight. In order to get some of the graphics features to work, it has to be running DirectX 12. And to get DirectX 12 support running, you have to experiment with different versions of Proton. So there's some experimentation to be had, but anyway, Steam's controversial Battlefield 6 refund could set a dangerous precedent. Battlefield 6 unexpectedly removed fan-favorite modes like King of the Hill, Squad Deathmatch, and Rush, angering the community. A longtime player with 470 hours received a full refund of $109 after pointing out the missing modes, highlighting potential flexibility in Steam's refund policy. This could lead to more players requesting refunds for games. Steam also has, there was an article I talked about in the news a couple of weeks ago where there was a developer that basically lost a bunch of money because they put out a game that could be completed in less than 2 hours. So people were completing the game in 2 hours and requesting a refund. And Steam's policy said any game can be refunded within 2 hours, no questions asked. And so people were doing that. So this could set a precedent for people requesting refunds because if a game company is going to be taking stuff away from you, so I see this as a win for the gamers. If companies are going to take stuff away from you, then request a refund. Like what happened with Sony about a month ago. They took some TVs, movies, and TV shows from you. And so the studios, I mean, I understand there's legal requirements and this, that, and the other, but the studios pulled out. And so, but Sony didn't have the rights to do it anymore. So then offer a refund. Do you think that these, if there was a consequence to the studio that pulled these things, if they had to offer a refund, do you think they'd do it? So I approve this. If you're going to rip stuff away, give a refund. They might even get into some things of, it's like, oh, well, you played so many hours, so we're going to prorate what the refund is. I don't know. But, you know, in general, I think this is a good precedent. If you're going to rip away content, offer a refund. But some things, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. In that, if a studio goes under, which happens all the time, and there's still a game out there, but the studio doesn't exist, and there's not a new owner, and the game isn't supported, you know, there's no place for you to do a refund from. But, you know, still, I think, in general, make the studios accountable. If they're going to put something out there and then rip it away from you, then they're going to be forced. I think they should be forced legally to give you a refund. At the very least, prorated or something. So, good. Let's see. What is this? I can't even see the title, so we'll skip that. Steam Dad Gamer FPS shoots up bestsellers list after devs urge fans not to buy it. Developers released a 10 reasons not to buy video, openly discussing potential drawbacks like content limits, price concerns, it was $40, microtransactions, which ironically boosted player trust. That, I've said that before, increase transparency, increase player trust. That's why Steam is, you know, Steam has been digital only for a long time, but people trust them. So people don't have a beef with them. But Sony, when they take away, they said we're ending physical disc support, and people lose their minds because they don't trust Sony, but they trust Valve. Game features War Dogs, I guess that's the game that they don't want you to buy, is a hardcore tactical first-person shooter with 100 player matches. Community impact. The candid marketing led to rapid success, pushing War Dogs into the top 10 best-selling Steam games within 24 hours. All right. There's some lessons to be there. Gain player trust, put out good stuff. And if you're not going to abide, but do the right thing. If you're going to pull something from people, give them a refund. Treat the gamers right, and you'll have their loyalty. Linux gamers spent a decade asking for native ports, but Valve gave them something better. What's that? Compatibility wins. Proton allows most Windows games to run on Linux, so that's true. Valve reduced Linux support to a checkbox, focusing on avoiding breakages and enabling cheat. Yep. Yeah. Proton is the secret sauce that makes Linux gaming viable. So that is the news I'm going to talk about. There's a whole bunch of other technology news, and I'm just going to have that on the OCmodshop website after this is done. So, RetroWare. This is, let me make sure this is big enough for you to see. This is the Antec 1200 V3 computer case. Look at that beast. And this is when computers had drive bays, you know, but look at that. It's pretty, oh yeah, look at me and my reflection in my little camera. And it has ports in the back for you to route cables and water cooling and all sorts of things. Yeah, look at that eSATA port. Isn't that awesome? Those ports could have been a little more flush. They look like they, you know, you could cut your finger on them. And the big old fan on the top. There's a place to set all your little screws and goodies. Standoffs. I think they came pre-installed for standard motherboards. There's Molex connectors for the fans. Not a super fan of that type of stuff, but it does allow you to, so this is probably meant that the fans were controlled by the case and not by your motherboard. So you know, a nice all black painted, powder coated, except the plastic, you know, good case. But you know, if you dig PC cases. So here is the Logitech G510 gaming keyboard, and this was a membrane keyboard, but this is still supported in a lot of things today. Games like World of Warcraft, wherever this display can display game stats. Right now you can get some other standalone displays that do game stats, you know, and you know, system, you know, stuff about your system in here. But this was an RGB keyboard. You know, and it was mushy. It wasn't my favorite in terms of clickiness, but it did have a lot of good features, like the volume knob, media controls, the display there. And the thing was, it didn't. One thing that was better about this than Corsair keyboards is that it just saw itself as one. Windows saw it as one keyboard, rather than some of the Corsair keyboards would see them as two different keyboards. And so there's some controls there. So this was neat. I liked this keyboard, but it was a little mushy. I really liked it a lot. I kind of wish they, you know, there probably are some, yeah, the G keys, they're kind of neat. And so they were separated physically into different banks so that you could hit on the certain keys by feel. I was a fan of that. So that was a, yeah, and integrated headphone and microphone jacks in the keyboard. So full featured keyboard. This was a good gaming keyboard. If only it were, oh yeah, and there's a joystick switch there. Basically it turns off the Windows keys on the keyboard so you don't accidentally hit it. So very good full featured keyboard for PC gamers there. Let's look at the QNAP T129P. So if you're going to get a NAS, I'd recommend 4 bays or more. But this is a 2-bay RAID 1 hot swappable NAS. It was kind of neat, it was kind of slow, but a lot of NASs are slow in comparison. But, it had locking bays, 1 Ethernet port, 2 USB 2. It looked like it had some eSATA ports there. I think I did hook up a external enclosure to that. A neat little thing to just sit in the background. Oh yeah, I took the board out. Look at that. And it looks like there's a PCIe connector there that the hard drives backplate would plug into. Using a Marvel chip, it's probably a system on a chip that's controlling the Ethernet and the drives. Some Hynix memory. I don't remember how much memory it had on the thing, but it's probably 1 gigabyte or less, probably 512, maybe even 256. So, yeah, that's fun. I don't think I use this very much because I use other NASs. This is just one of the things that they sent me for review. One thing that I found with these NASs is that the power supplies end up dying before the NAS does. So I would say if you do get a NAS, go ahead and get yourself a backup power supply for it, because these things are custom, or they plug in a particular thing. It's kind of, this might have had a barrel jack. Did it have a barrel jack? But there was one, yeah, this was a traditional barrel jack, but there was one I had that had like a 5-pin DIN, like I think it was Synology. And when the power supply died, I panicked because I thought I lost all my data. But all I needed to do was just get a new power supply that worked. So, but that was kind of fun. So anyway, that is the retroware. And I've been really long in the tooth. And I appreciate you guys sitting with me again. And it was thanks to your support for helping me get to this level. I'm now a YouTube partner. I'm going to be bringing more stuff for you. I'm going to be bringing exclusive content for members. I'm going to be rolling out some memberships. And you're helping me realize my dream of doing this, doing what I love to do for a living. And I thank you guys very much for supporting me and being here for me. And I'm going to be bringing stuff to you. So let me know what you want. My email is on the, you go to my profile page and you can click on and get my email if you want to reach out to me, and I'll respond to you, respond to the comments. I try to respond to everybody. And let me know what you want to see and I'll give it to you. So I appreciate everything. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you're having fun as always, and I will see you online. I'll see you next week for the OCmodcast episode 15. Thank you guys, and I will see you next week.